Scott. Hey, it's Jonathan Harmon with J Harmon Home Team, powered by Keller Williams, and this is Table Talk, where there's always room at the table. And I've got my friend Mike French over here. What's going on, Mike?
Yeah, not much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited for this.
I am so pumped. So Mike's got lots of things to talk about, but before we do that, we got to pay for this. So my friend over at Iberia Bank Mortgage, Mr. Brian Nail, hit the applause button, Trent. Thank you so much. So Mr. Brian Nail over at Iberia Bank Mortgage, the best loan officer. That's it. That's the end of that sentence. The best loan officer. So anyway, if you need a mortgage, give Brian Nail a call. If you need help with your home sale or purchase, give us a call. And if you need help with both, give both of us a call.
There you go.
And then, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and give a shout out to. I just left the Fountains at Gateway. My friends at Gateway Title are having a little shindig this evening. And thank you to those guys over there at Gateway Title. We love those guys too. So,
Mike, cut the check, please.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Tab, calling you out, bro.
Tab, cut the check.
Do you remember? That's producer Trent, by the way. That's
me
calling Tab out. Do you guys remember when UPS sponsored a NASCAR and they kept the rallying cry was "Race the Truck"? You guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
You don't remember that?
No,
that sounds awesome.
It does sound fantastic. That's a great mental image, right?
Yeah, race the truck. So I was over at Bro Holla. If you guys haven't been by there yet, Bro Holla is a men's consignment store over on the square, and they had a die cast of the UPS truck with flames on it, and it said "Race the Truck" on it. It just reminded me of it.
That's pretty cool.
It was awesome. So anyway, this is my friend Mike French. He is now officially, as of today, officially the new team leader at the Keller Williams office here in Murfreesboro.
Yes,
if you're not familiar with the Keller Williams model for their office, it's a little bit different than pretty much all the rest of them out there.
Very true.
We have a team leader and we have a managing broker. And what that does, that frees up time for both of them to do what they're good at. So the managing broker fields all the problems, the contract issues, does a lot of the education, that kind of thing, and makes them better agents. The team leader kind of handles the warm fuzzies and the oh, your feelings got hurt, pat on the back, and then also a lot of recruiting, right?
Right.
So are you more the warm fuzzy or are you more the contract kind of guy? I mean, I'm hoping the warm fuzzies if you're the team leader, right?
You know, I have that side to me. I've got kids, so you kind of have to have that side.
No, you don't.
Okay. I have a little girl, so I do. She melts me every time, man.
Yeah.
So I do have a little bit of that. And at the same time, that broker side of things, of making sure our agents are the smartest people in the field, that's super important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that they know those contracts inside out and backwards as best they can. They don't have to be out there being the multi-million-dollar producers. If they are, that's fantastic. But my goal is just to make sure that as their broker, at the same time as team leader, to make sure they're the smartest agents out there.
Well, and so I teach the contracts class at MTAR, you know, and what I always tell people is you're a craftsman or a craftswoman, and your craft, any craft that you do, you have tools. And the number one tool that we use is the purchase and sale agreement.
Yeah.
As far as how we represent our clients. And if you don't use that 10-page document to its full power, and there's a lot of power in that 10 pages, and you kind of accidentally do it, then you're not doing your clients a good job.
Absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, we see that, and it's even more prevalent now than it has been since I started.
Yeah.
You've got a swarm of agents that are entering the marketplace that are just being handed the paper and saying, go for it.
Yeah. Good luck, sink or swim.
Exactly.
Fake it till you make it.
And so they're just looking at what lines do I fill in and I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people miss so many of those fine print moments. And even I still have to go back and review them from time to time. Because
I review it 3 times a year minimum, and then I teach it 6 times a year. So I basically review it again.
Crazy enough, you taught me contracts at MTAR when I started as an agent.
No way.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. That's awesome. I was putting on ice skates tonight, and this guy goes, "Hey, is your name Jonathan?" And I was like, that depends. And he was like, "Yeah, you taught me at MTAR like 4 years ago." I was like, "Oh." And he goes, "Yeah, my name's blah, blah, blah." I was like, "Oh, yeah." I mean, there's 90 people at a time in that class.
And you teach it how many times a year?
6 times a year.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about as team leader. Now, your job is to kind of encourage people but kind of give them a realistic preview if they're thinking about getting into real estate.
Yep.
but then also to go and recruit agents from other firms, kind of rescue them, so to speak,
Sure.
And bring them to the light side over here at Keller Williams, right?
Yeah.
And how is that conversation going right now, especially with I have so many people that have reached out to me and they're like, hey man, I'm kind of thinking about getting into real estate.
Yeah.
Is this a good time to get in? How does it work? What am I going to do?
Sure.
All of those kinds of questions. What are you telling people right now?
So I've been having these conversations actually since October. I took over as interim. So, Shauna had left. And so it was just, It was me doing those conversations.
Shout out to Shauna.
Shauna Moore.
Still love you.
We miss you. Come back. No, don't, because then you'd have to have your job back. And I just got it. You can come back as an assistant.
Yeah, she can come back as managing broker.
She could, yeah. Or assistant team leader.
No, whatever.
One of those.
Yeah.
So those conversations, the very first thing I start with is I tell them my story. And my story being no real estate experience, never lived in Tennessee, moved here, spent a ton of money drinking beer and eating pizza at the pool until one day my wife said, hey, you should probably get a job. I thought I was going to be an at-home dad at like 33 years old. It didn't work.
That's a great thought, though.
Yeah, it lasted a summer.
Yeah. Hey, what a summer it was.
Yeah, it was fantastic. The pizza place delivered right to the pool. It was great. Getting used to Tennessee summers. So I just look back at no real estate experience, brand new to the area. My previous experience was in management with Verizon, and then I had a brief stint in law enforcement. And so in the last 5 years, we've had another child. And the last 3 of those, I've been able to be a part-time at-home dad while still running a successful real estate business where I've sold more, helped more families, and taken home more money than I ever have before in any other career. And I can't think of a company that would allow you to work 3 days a week and make $100,000 a year. And so being able to share that with other people and say, hey, look, this company has helped me create and live a life that I wanted to live, that I desired to live, and I needed somebody to help me show me how to build that. Because in corporate jobs, you could pour in 60 hours, you could pour in 40 hours. You're still getting paid the same amount of money. And I looked at it as I needed to work as much as I could because I also have an older boy that at the time was young and I had to support, be the man of the house and pay the bills. And so,
but there's another side to that though, Mike, because you can also in real estate, you can spend 60, 70 hours a week working and make $20,000 a year.
Oh, absolutely.
Or nothing.
Absolutely.
So there's more to it than just, and I think that's where a lot of folks right now, I think there's a lot of misinformation about what it's really like to start a real estate business.
HGTV doesn't help. And that comes up in conversation. And so I followed that story with, this is 100% a career. This is not a job. It is a career. And if you treat it like your business, you're a 1099 self-employed. This is your brand. We're going to help you.
You're building a small
brand.
Business. That's right.
Introduced it. J Harmon Home Team, powered by Keller Williams. That's what we're here for. We want you to grow your brand and be the power and the driving force behind that. Yet if you don't treat it like that, you're never going to do anything. You're going to spend money. You're going to spin your wheels. You're never going to go anywhere. You're going to cost yourself money to be in this field. And so I've turned people away. Surprisingly, Sarah, if you ever hear this, I'm sorry. However, there's been people where I've interviewed, we've met and I explained that to them and they're not the right fit. Or
but you know what?
Not the right time for them.
You helped them because it's easy. You spend $2,000 or $3,000 getting into the business.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time getting into the business. And then, there's a certain amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? Brass that you have to go out and put your face out there.
Absolutely.
And then the worst thing is you just kind of fizzle into nothing.
Well, too many people are instant gratification people. They put the effort out and they want the results. And we know that that's not how this works. There's a lot of effort that continually and repetitively has to go out before you start seeing those rewards. And so being able to make sure people understand that and convey that message of, if you're the type of person that's going to wake up and watch one more episode of Netflix before you get up and get ready and start your day, you're probably not going to work out in real estate. This is very much an alarm goes off, boom, get up. What's your self-meditation, self-care, workout, whatever you do, hit the phones, hit the doors. I tell every single agent, be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because those are the actions that are going to help you be successful in this industry. And if you can't do that, you'll never pan out. You might as well save the money and walk away now.
Well, and the other thing that I think a lot of folks are uncomfortable with is you have to be able to, there's a balance between tooting your own horn and saying, I'm good at this and I can do this,
Mhm.
and having that, and going too far the other way. And like, you have to toot your own horn without being arrogant.
Sure.
And that is hard. And I very frequently step over that line where I know what I'm good at.
Oh yeah.
You know, and sometimes I tell people what I'm good at, and it comes across as like, oh, he's a pretty arrogant guy. You know,
It's confidence, not arrogance, right?
well, that's what I think, but it doesn't always convey that way. Right. And so, you know, there's a lot of nuance to that. And here's the other thing. And this is what I'm experiencing, and I'm seeing this impact my business now. I've been licensed since 2009. I got in the business when everybody else was getting out. I mean, the market was awful,
right?
But it was predictable because it was awful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was it. That was the market.
Yeah.
I found that it was actually relatively easy to get into the market at that point as an agent, because so many people had been getting out that there were job openings.
Yeah.
Essentially, you know, their agent quit. And so now what I'm running into is I've got situations where, yeah, we used you before and we really enjoyed the experience, but my cousin just got licensed and Thanksgiving dinner is going to taste funny if I don't use him.
Right.
And I'm running into that a lot. Yeah. And that's hard, you know? So is it easier? You've been licensed, what, 4 or 5 years?
5 years. This is year 6, just started in October.
Okay. Do you think it's harder to start a real estate career now than it was when you started?
I don't think so. As crazy as that may sound.
That sounds crazy.
It does. Yeah. Well, so there's some bias because there's a lot of things I've learned over the last 5 years that I know that if I'm going into this now, it would be different. I would say, yes, there's a ton of new agents in the field. And so there's a lot of saturation with that. And there's a lot of, I mean, I had a buyer, the same, very similar situation not that long ago. And it kind of burned me, you know, and it's mm-hmm. unfortunate. And at the same time, there's still a lot of things that agents refuse to do. There's a lot of things that agents won't do. I mean, video is still talked about very, very commonly. And yet how many agents do you see doing video around here?
Consistently do video.
Consistently.
Right.
It's the same thing with farming. You know, a lot of people just give up on that. So if you can be told, hey, Jonathan, if you go into this neighborhood and for the next 8 months consistently deliver 1 to 2 pieces of value every single month before you see a sale, would you do it?
I probably would not.
At this point. Right now, right? However, as a brand new agent, be like, okay, I could probably work that in.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to do that. So it's kind of twofold, I guess. You know, part of me would be like, heck yeah, there's no reason why I wouldn't be able to be successful. At the same time, if I didn't know anything I knew now and try to jump in, it's kind of scary, man. People are writing some crazy things in contracts that I'm sure you're seeing too.
Oh yeah.
That as a brand new agent with no support system, which unfortunately is a lot of the brokerages out there, you're looking at a contract not understanding how to interpret or read an escalation clause. I mean, we see people say no escalation clause because they don't understand them. Mm-hmm. I literally had an agent tell me I don't understand them, so I'm not accepting them on offers.
So are you really representing your clients to the best?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah, to the best of your ability, yeah,
right.
But to the best of my ability, no. Yeah. And I don't use. I mean, you mentioned escalation clauses. I don't use them very often, but there is definitely a time and place to use them, and there's absolutely a time and place to accept them.
Well, yeah, and what we're seeing right now is this isn't a market of hold your cards to your chest and then just kind of play what you think you can play.
Right.
It's almost I got to show you my whole hand because it's still competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to have that tact behind it and understanding, like, I know this is what needs to happen. Let's go do it.
Yeah. What is your pitch to a producing agent right now to move to Keller Williams?
I say, look at Jonathan Harmon.
Oh, come on. And they're like, well, looks like I'm going to EXP.
Oh, we've had a few come from EXP.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of that conversation shifts from not so much about real estate in general, more of the culture of Keller Williams, who we are as a company, our vision and our beliefs. And then it really tailors down to a needs analysis. We kind of figure out the pain versus pleasure. Like what's going well in your business now? What's not going well? If you were to do this, what would your life look like? Some of those conversations go great. Some of them are long play conversations that, you know, just kind of is planting a little seed and having to follow back.
What would you say Keller Williams' strength is? Like their biggest strength
as a company as a whole?
Just the biggest thing they have to offer a producing agent, a 20 transaction a year agent, which that's for those of you that are new to talking real estate, the average agent does 5 transactions a year. That's a nationwide average. That gets them probably somewhere just above the poverty level, honestly, as far as income goes. A successful career agent will do about 20 transactions, and they'll live very comfortably.
Yeah.
So
I would say, and apologize for those who don't know Keller Williams very well, but there's that conversation we talk about of going from E to P, and that entrepreneurial to purposeful. It's for a lot of agents, they kind of hit that ceiling. So that may be a producing agent that's doing 20 a year. However, they're doing 20 a year after year after year. Keller Williams is a great company that provides kind of the structure and those models on how to then start tweaking your business. To what little things can you adjust, and what can you do? How can you think differently? How can you implement different systems in your business to go from 20 to 25 next year to 30, and start, kind of eclipsing those marks?
Let's talk about the E to P thing, because it is something that Keller Williams preaches, and it's something that I find a lot of value in, but it's not captive by real estate. So I have lots of friends out there that have their own small business, whether it's the lawn pro that comes out and blows my leaves. They do a fantastic job, by the way.
I wouldn't want to rake your leaves. So
no, you would not want to rake my leaves, nor do I want to rake my leaves. But they do a fantastic job. Whether it's them or Tracy Toy over at Quinn's Mercantile, or Jeremy over at Brass Horn, or whatever, all of those, that E to P, that concept, that philosophy, it transcends all entrepreneurial ventures, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just a mindset. It's how you look at it and how you interpret it for your own business. Because we all have ceilings in businesses. It doesn't matter what the business is.
Limiting beliefs, right?
Absolutely.
So, Jeremy Florida over there at Brass Horn, my favorite coffee shop in the entire world, and he is a friggin' genius when it comes to roasting coffee beans. Okay. And if he sits around and he says, man, the best I can do is this little shop, and it's a great shop, and I'm going to eke out a comfortable living here, roasting beans and slinging lattes and whatever. That's fine if that's where he wants to be.
Sure.
But that's also a limiting belief and a ceiling, isn't it?
Well, and it's just, again, back to my own story. I could have been perfectly fine with 12, 15 a year. And just rode that out. There was a little part of me that wanted to do a little bit more and wanted to grow a little bit more. And so it just becomes, that internal conversation of what do I need to do to get a little bit bigger? Do I want to grow that a little bit more? Do you want to, and not everybody does. And he may be perfectly happy with that for the rest of his life. But if there ever comes an opportunity for him to take a step back,
buy another shop, grow it a little bit,
continue to do its thing. And all of a sudden now he's making money doing it for fun rather than doing it for work. Rather than doing it for a living, he's enjoying that as a hobby.
We call that working on your business instead of working in your business. Yeah. I'm a fan of that. And, that's been a lesson that's been hard for me to learn. And I preach a lot of things that I don't always practice.
Sure.
And
I think we all do that.
Yeah. And one of those is the whole concept of reinventing the wheel. I made the move to Keller Williams a few years ago. And when I did, they have this whole MREA, Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And I read it and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I was just like, okay, I'm going to just do it the way I want to do it. And I finally sat and met with Sarah Stevens. And she's like, yeah, so that's how you organized your team? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, have you read MREA? And I'm like, yeah. And that's how you organized your team? And I'm like, yeah. And anyway, and then she made like 3 suggestions. And I was like, oh,
right.
Oh, like that makes so much more sense. So I think that's what Keller Williams has to offer. So if you're out there, if you're a producing agent, you're making, a decent living, you're having a good time, maybe you're thinking about building a team. There is no one on the planet that does team real estate better than Keller Williams. There's no one. It's in their DNA. It's how they're built.
A team before you came over, right?
A small
team, but you understood. And now looking back at it, if you could go back and redo it, would you change the way that you built that team out based on what you see in the models?
Yeah, a little bit.
Still a little bit of Jonathan in there to kind of still do it the way.
Sorry,
you
man.
do it.
it is what it is.
I understand. And that's just how we are as just, as human beings. And that's where it comes back to, you're just riding the path that you want to ride because this is the life you want to design for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's great with KW is that we say, okay, well, great. Well, how can we empower you to do that? How can we help you get there faster? Or, hey, do you want to do it a little bit differently? How can we help support you there?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the things I love about this company. And so taking on this team leader role, I got to the point where I was just kind of tired of selling houses. I was telling Trent earlier, only a couple years in, and it wasn't exciting anymore. There's that thrill when you're first starting as an agent. You're that first closing. You're like, oh my gosh, I helped this family buy their first house. Like all those good feels.
Dreams come true.
Yeah.
I'm going to Disney World. Yeah. Uh-huh.
You get that first commission check. You're like, what am I going to spend this on? And so it got to the point where it just wasn't exciting anymore. I didn't want to get out of real estate, and I didn't want to leave Keller Williams because what this company has done for me. And I love everything about this company.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it when somebody says, hey, I think I'm going to go somewhere else. It's like a little internal heartbreak for me because I feel like we're the best. I feel like if you really take advantage of what we have to offer, there's no reason to look anywhere else.
And that's the thing. So, I haven't fully capitalized on all of the things that KW has to offer, admittedly. Yeah. And I'm very slow. I'm very methodical about how we do that. And then once I decide, then it's, like a missile.
Right.
And I've always been that way. And it's interesting. Like, I feel like I've done maybe 25 to 30% of what KW has to offer. Maybe. And so for me, it's exciting as we start adding things. Rachel on my team has done a fantastic job with our command integration, and that's our internal software, by the way, and figuring out how to grow our presence through stuff that we're already doing.
And that's another thing for us for agents that are out there producing, those of you that are out there doing 20 or 30 deals a month or a year. Gosh, month, that'd be fantastic.
Dude,
a year.
Let's talk.
Yeah, seriously. Come on right now. Just there's a spot right here for you at the table. He said it's always open.
That's right.
That technology piece, that the command platform and what it can do for you as an agent. One, you don't have to pay for a CRM. It's there for you.
Mm-hmm. And a good one, a robust one.
Well, and it was one of those things is like, we looked at it as everyone's paying for all these different systems. Why don't we just create our own?
Mm-hmm.
And so command was literally built by agents for agents.
Mm-hmm.
As cheesy and cliche as that sounds, it really was.
Yeah.
And every time there's updates,
and it's good.
Yeah. And every time there's an update, it's because an agent said, hey, I think we could do better if we did this.
Actually, my statement usually is, why doesn't command do this? And then Rachel, she's on the labs team, and she's like, I don't know. And then she takes it to labs, and then 3 weeks later,
there
it does it.
Yeah, there it is. But you're to the point, even for you producing agents, when you can send out ads through low ad spend, click through Facebook funnels for leads. I mean, that's just an easy thing for you. Self automation, let that system just work for you so that you can focus on what you want to focus on.
That's right. That's right. I'm a fan. So let's talk about the market itself. It is a very interesting market, isn't it?
Wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I tell people right now, they always ask, well, how's the market? And my answer right now is volatile. Yeah. It is volatile. It's not good. It's not bad. It's volatile. Yeah. And it's unpredictable. In that volatility, it is unpredictable. I mean, I had a listing not too long ago that should have gone like that with 25 offers. And we got like an offer 3 weeks after, or well, not 3 weeks, about 5 days. It felt like 3 weeks after we listed it. And it's like,
a year ago, that would have been like, all right, good job, way to go.
But now it's like, what happened with this one? And then literally the very next week, we list another house, very similar house, 25 offers in 48 hours. And so it's just weird. It's a very emotion driven market right now, I think.
Yeah.
And anytime that you throw emotion into business, you get volatility. Yeah. What do you think it's going to do? What do you think is going to happen? What's 2022 going to look like, Mike French?
Yeah, it's tough. So please don't bank on what I have.
I am. I'm right. Hey, this is being recorded. Trent's going to mark it. We're going to transcribe it.
Well, Mike French said, we have these conversations all the time. Mm-hmm. I talk to mortgage lenders about this and get their take on it. I've talked to investors about it, get their builders, same thing. And everybody kind of has the general consensus that there is no bubble pop coming that everyone talks about.
Why? Why is there no bubble?
Well, they tie it back to that 07, 08, 09 when the market crashed. And lenders were giving out those crazy arm loans to anybody that just could show they had a paycheck from somewhere, right? It didn't matter what your job was. I mean, you could be a dog poop scooper for your neighbor, and they were like, cool, here's a loan for $400,000. They're not doing that right now. Interest rates are still relatively low. And so, yes, housing prices keep going up. They don't predict a bubble pop. They look at home values are going to dip a little because interest rates are going to go up. And
do you think though that home values will dip? Because here's where I'm going with this. Okay, I agree with everything you're saying up until that part. I don't see values dipping.
Okay.
Here's what I see happening. I see and I see it happening now is over speculation on price increases.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, Rutherford County grew by 31% in aggregate. September to September was the last time I looked at that. So, from 2020 to 2021, September to September, it was 31% price increase average at all price points,
which is wild.
It's nuts.
Historically, what, 8 to 10?
Oh no, like 3 to 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean that's the norm, right? So what was happening then is that's not linear, right? So if it's to make the math easy, let's say it's 36%. That's not 3% a month,
right?
Because some months are going to go up faster than others because demand is different seasonally. Okay. So if I think it's 3% a month and I list a house in October and I increase it 3% per month for the last 3 months over when the last comp was, right? And so that is August, September, October. Okay. I've over speculated that price increase potentially by as much as 9% because most of our price increase comes March, April, May, June, right? So then what we start seeing, and we started to see this a ton in October, is we started seeing price reduction. Houses sitting on the market for 5 days, which is a friggin' eternity in our market right now.
Yeah.
And we see price reductions. So I think what we'll see is instead of prices dropping, I think we'll see increases slowing. But it's sort of like when you're walking down the moving sidewalk at the airport, and you're walking on it, and you're walking fast, and you get to the end of it, and you're like,
yeah,
and it feels like you hit a wall.
Yeah.
That's what's going to feel like.
Forward, just not as fast. So here's my flip side to that, and this is just my own internal processing. Is we've seen this growth, we've seen these housing prices shoot way up,
31%.
Most of these buyers, at least the majority of my business that I did this year, was a lot of out-of-state buyers. And I can tell you, anybody listening that's a real estate agent has probably got out-of-state buyers buying up property. And so my thought goes to, if they've driven the market this high, I don't see pricing still continuing to grow because the cost of living here is not like wages aren't going up at the same value, at the same rate. So,
but they are, because we're also attracting other businesses in. We're attracting the Oracles and some of those folks.
Yeah. And that's a lot of that's, we've got a lot of that growth in Nashville. A lot of that's happening. From what I've seen, at least here in Murfreesboro, I'm looking at, because I live in Blackman School Zone, but I live on the county side, bought my house for $185 in 2018, right?
Right.
It's like $260, $275 now. Nothing massive, but it's a small house. Well, I was looking at, okay, well, if I wanted to stay just in Blackman High, the minimum home on the market right now is $550. I don't know. I mean, when I lived in California, my housing pricing wasn't even that high. And so I look at it as who lives here in Murfreesboro that could, between a couple, afford a $550,000 mortgage on an FHA that they're only putting 3% down because they probably don't have the savings. And so that's where my mind thought of is maybe not so much. Maybe if it dipped, it was dip a little, it wouldn't be anything drastic. And that's just because I understand the jobs coming in, but I'm not seeing the change in the cost of living like matching the housing.
But then when you start doing, you start looking at an index at that point, the Nashville MSA, just general cost of living index right now, we're at a I think it was 1.016 or something like that. So just almost a 1.02, which means we're just 2% higher than the national average cost of living. Our housing is at 1.11. So we're 11% higher on cost of living in the housing sector. And the reason that is that we are a place that people want to be.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're attracting folks from out of state for lots of reasons. and this is where I'm kind of going with that price increase is relative, right? So I've lived here for, how old am I? So I've lived here 37 years now, I guess. And so when I see a house, you know, 1,300 square foot house for 275, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Pretty much everywhere else looks at that and goes, that's a bargain.
Right.
And I love Nashville.
Yeah.
And there's 3 interstates, and there's a world-class airport, and there's jobs, and Oracle's moving there, and they've got a successful football team. I know how crazy that sounds.
That's how I felt 5 years ago when I moved here.
Exactly.
And I kicked myself in the pants more so because I couldn't convince my wife to buy it before we moved here. And I really wish we would have.
Yeah.
Because now looking at, just 5 years down the road, I mean, sure, I can make some good equity in my own house. I still don't want to stomach, even if I put $100,000 down, I don't want to stomach a $450,000 mortgage.
And that's it. And that's the shuffle that we have right now. So if you've been here for 3, 4, 5 years and you bought 3, 4, 5 years ago, you're sitting there looking at your equity position and you're like, I'd be crazy not to sell.
Some people are looking at 200,000 plus.
Well, yeah, they're seeing 100% increase in their equity position. The problem is it's a shell game. So it's the same thing in reverse that happened in 08, 09, right? So people are like, man, I'm just absolutely losing my shirt selling my house. But I can turn around and buy a house for next to nothing. So it's all about mindset. And this is where I think an educated, well-informed, and a good communicator for an agent comes in handy, right? Let's talk through your problem.
Yeah.
Right. And I have told lots of people, stay put.
Yeah.
Just stay put. You can't do better than what you've got right now unless you want to move somewhere else.
Or tack 10 to 12 more years back onto a mortgage.
That's right. And we're moving folks to Coffee County right now.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's the next shift down there. The Manchester, even the Tullahoma.
Yeah, somebody told me he was listing a home in Tullahoma for $375. I said, "Are you out of your mind?
Yeah,
that's too high."
Yeah.
He's like, "Wait, let me show you the comps." It's like, it'd been a minute since I looked at Tullahoma.
But you can still get a starter home there in the low 200s.
Oh, absolutely.
And you cannot get that here. It does not exist. Not even condos.
The last person I sold, she made $160,000 and she turned around and put it all right back into a new house. And her look at is I've only owned this home for 2.5 years. I'm okay with adding 2 years back onto a mortgage at a couple $100 more a month to get a house, a third more the size and more what I wanted. And so there's that aspect of it too, is you're going to see those people that do that. When's the next opportunity that you can sell a property and pocket $150,000? Exactly. So that's why, as real estate agents, we're kind of like, hey, you should probably just take advantage of it now. Yeah, you're going to spend all that money.
Yeah.
However, or you go rent and just wait it out and see what happens.
Yeah.
But that's where we come in and say, look, I don't think there's any bubble popping. I don't think you're going to see an 08, 09 opportunity again.
No, we're not going to lose 50%.
If it wasn't Nashville, maybe.
Yes.
But because Nashville is a top 5 destination city and has been throughout all of this.
That's what I was going to say. Even in the Great Recession, we didn't lose like everybody else. I tell people, if you plot out our movement, we're the most boring roller coaster on the planet. We're less than a kiddie roller coaster.
Yeah.
I mean, we went down, sure, but we lost, depending on the specific market, 30 to maybe 20 to maybe 35%, where you had markets that were losing 50 and 60%. Yeah. So what else you want to talk about? Tell us about your kids.
You gave me no game script to come in here.
I know.
So I even showed up at the brewery side of the place.
I know. We'll go look at that here in a minute. Tell us about your kids.
So I've got an older boy, Micah. He's 14.
Mike and Micah?
Yep, Mike and Micah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had Mike and Micah Mondays when he was little. We got to spend every Monday together. He turns 15 in January, just finished his freshman year at Blackman football.
Nice.
So now he's into weightlifting every day. Like I take him at 7:30 in the morning to go weightlift before school. So
that's awesome.
He's super, super plugged in. And that was one of the things when I was looking, I was like, I need a bigger house, but I don't want to get out of the Blackman zone. So I'm going to have to spend money and add on to my house instead. And then I've got a little girl. Her name's Grayson. She's 3.5. She's quite a little spitfire, smart as a whip. Outgrows all of her clothes every other week.
Yeah.
It seems like I'm always buying new stuff. We're getting ready to get into that daycare phase. So I'm looking forward to that day.
Yeah. My son turned 15 in October and I hardly drive myself anywhere anymore.
fantastic.
It's freaking awesome. And he's a great driver. So I'm like, I'm going to work while, you're, while you're driving. This is
go
great.
for it. We've let him drive a few back roads here and there. You know, he's a very cautious kid. He's an over analyzer, so he likes to figure everything out before he goes and does it. You can't really do that in driving, so you have to be. So it's a little bit of a work, but he's excited for the opportunity. He's already asking about going and get a job so he can start working part time, making some money. So,
boy, it's good stuff. All right, tell us real quick, how does if they want to have a conversation about getting into real estate? How do they get in touch with you?
You can shoot me a text, 615-969-8538. You can swing by our office at 450 St. Andrews. You can email me, mfrench@kw.com. Either way. Smoke signals, we'll probably pick those up eventually.
Carrier pigeon.
Yeah, we can do carrier pigeon.
Yeah.
I prefer those over like the Falcons, so don't send those.
But
yeah, I mean, we'd love just even have a conversation. If you're new and thinking about getting into a career in real estate, it really is a rewarding career if you treat it like one.
That's right.
And so we'd love to have that conversation with you. Jonathan, I'm sure would love to have a conversation with you about it too.
And it's one of the easiest businesses to start to be self-employed. It's also one of the easiest businesses to lose your rear end in. And it's relatively, if you do the right work and you have the right coach and you have the right formula, you can build a really nice life
without a lot of education, which is crazy.
Formal education.
Yeah. A lot of our real estate agents make more than doctors do, and a whole lot less education.
That's right. I took a long time to get out of MTSU, but that was my own fault. We don't need to talk about that too much. So anyway,
and if you're an experienced agent, we'd love to still have a conversation with you. No pressure. I'm not a high intensity, like sign the dotted line, you have to do this kind of thing. I just like talking about real estate. I like having the opportunity to talk about your business and see where we can help you potentially grow. And if you stay put where you're at, you stay put where you're at. But you had a good conversation where you learned something. I love coffee, so we can have it over coffee. I'm also clearly somebody who loves food in general. So if you want to have it over lunch, my treat, more than happy.
Oh, he said my treat. Hey, can you take me to lunch?
Yeah, absolutely.
Outstanding.
You tell me when. Your schedule's probably a whole lot busier than mine is.
So, all right. Shout out to Mr. Trent Denson and spread the positive over there. Hit the applause button again. There we go. He doesn't like applauding for himself, but I'm going to make him anyway. So one of my favorite bald men on this planet right there.
That's mutual. Thank you.
All right. And if you have any interest in underwriting a show, we'd love to talk to you about that. If you have any interest in starting a show, we would love to talk to you about that. And then, of course, my buddy Brian Nail at Iberia Bank Mortgage. Thank you for underwriting this show. And we love that guy.
Thank you, Brian.
That's right. We love Brian.
Thank you, Mike, man. This has been good.
It's really good. Man. Good information. Very good information. Mike French, the brand new team leader at Keller Williams.
Breaking news.
Breaking news.
Tables.
We had confetti and everything today.
Did we really?
Yeah,
I missed it. I've been a little preoccupied here lately.
Get you the recording.
That'd be great.
You can at least partake that way.
Yeah. So you got to see the video of us trying to pop the confetti poppers. It was not good.
Pretty funny. Yeah.
It was not good. It did not go well. But anyway, bless our hearts. This has been Table Talk. We're almost to Christmas, so you got just a few days left to go shop. If you need some great gift ideas, let me know. I can hook you up with the small business that can help you the most here in Murfreesboro, because I know them. They're good folks around this town that would love to help you out. If you want to volunteer somewhere, that is important to me, and we're going to go do some volunteer work at Journey Home and also over at Nourish Food Bank. Me and my kids. If you're interested in that, give me a call. I'll get you in contact with the folks that can get you guys to work wherever it is that you might want to serve. And man, we can start with kids this tall. We can start with people that are 85 years old. It doesn't matter. We can plug you in somewhere. That's about it. What else, Trent? Anything?
That's it. Great show.
All right. Y'all have a good rest of the week. We'll talk to you again real soon. See ya.